We are starting with the chapter that is early humans and the beginning of civilization. So, this is the chapter 4 of our new NCERT, which is of social science. So, first we'll study about the Sindhu Saraswati civilization. So, this is also known as the Indus Valley civilization, and it is also known as the Harappan civilization. Right. So, this Harappan civilization has a script which they will write like in the form of poetry and all these things. Then their form of writing is known as the Sindhu Lipi. But it is not yet deciphered. That means it is not yet coded, in the sense that this Sindhu Lipi we have found out, but we are not able to understand what is actually written in those scripts, right? So that is what we call the coding one, that is called deciphered. Okay, so along with this we also have the cuneiform script, which is of the Sumerians in Mesopotamia. And we also have the hieroglyphic script, which is of the ancient Egypt. And it's important to note here that the Sindhu Lipi of the Harappan civilization is not yet coded, but this cuneiform script and the hieroglyphic script are both understood by us, and they take back us to about some 5,000 years ago, right? Another important mention here is when you speak of some 4000 BCE, that is before the Common Era, we have a script which is known as the Brahmi script. Okay, so this script was used in most parts of the southern India as well as in the Ganga Valley, which is of in the regions of North India. So this Brahmi script you can find which is being used in southern India as well as in the Ganga Valley, which is of North India. And this was formalized by Emperor Ashoka, which is of the 3rd century BCE. Okay, so this is what we refer to as the Iron Age. Okay, so until now what you have seen is that we basically have the Sindhu Saraswati civilization, which is also known as the Indus Valley or the Harappan civilization, and in that the script which they follow is called the Sindhu Lipi, and it is not yet coded, in the sense we do not understand it. And we have two other kinds of scripts which are found in the Sumerians in Mesopotamia and in the ancient Egypt, which are understood by us, and they date back to about some 5,000 years ago. And we also have another thing which is found 400 BCE a script called the Brahmi script, which is used in southern India as well as in the Ganga Valley of the North India, and it was formalized by Emperor Ashoka, which dates back to around the 3rd century BCE, and all this is referred to as the Iron Age. So now, speaking of one of the table which is provided in our NCERT, which says as follows, like the before, after, and some criteria based on it. So speaking of the first criteria, that is the human history. So what do we understand previously? We understand it like this history which was of the past will cover more than 90%, and it is of the period some 3 million years ago to some 5,000 years ago. It is the timeline which we follow, like from 3 million years to 5,000 years ago we have the history of humans, and after that is which forms less than 1%. That is from this 5,000 years to present, from 5,000 years to the present. That is the last 5,000 years to present is what is we are calling the after history. So the before and the after. So what is the before? That is 3 million years ago to 5,000 years ago, and after is what we refer to as until the present from the 5,000 years ago. So what is the main source of reconstruction? Main source of reconstruction. In the previous period, we have the tools, implements, objects, and objects which are made by humans itself. Okay, now after we have the material remains, and we also have the written documents for present, like how the monuments are built and all these things. We have a proper blueprint of it for the source of reconstruction. But previously we had tools, objects and implements which are made by humans itself. And how is it to study the lives of the people? In the past, it was difficult to understand how their lives were, and at present, if you speak of it, we have the written documents like histories about events and all these things. So suppose if you see the past wars, we don't have such accurate information about things like in the king's period how the wars are. But now when you speak of the US-Iran war or something like that, we have proper info of everything, the events, the dates, the people who were involved, and everything was properly recorded. So that is the main difference between both. In the past, it was difficult to understand. For us, for the future generations, it will be easy to understand about this US-Iran war because all the info is present, right? So next, speaking of the measurement of the time. So how is it measured? It was measured approximately. We do not know the exact period, but now we are very accurate about things. So when someone asks when did the US-Iran war start, it is so easy. You can give the accurate date. But when you speak of the past, you only have the fossils or the tools and all these things. So you only know the dates approximately. Okay. So next, moving to the next important thing, that is, why should we study the early human history? This is the heading we was providing you in NCERT. That is, why should we actually study the early human history? So the answer is simple. It helps us to understand the long process of humankind's biological as well as the cultural evolution. Cultural evolution in relation to the changes in the climate and the environment. So why is it that you have to study the early humans part? Is because it is a very long process where you will have a evolution of both the biological and cultural evolutions will be happening in relation to what happens to the climate and the environment around us. So how has the climate changed? How have we evolved? And why is it that we are like this at present and how it is in the previous time? So this is all you will know when you study the early humans part. Okay, so first, speaking of the biological evolution. So first, speaking of the biological biological evolution. So first, evolution of human is what you have to study. Okay, so when you say about the evolution of humans, you basically have to remember this word, that is Drahan. So even though it is not provided in your NCERT, make a note of it because it is very useful. That first, it starts with the Dryopithecus, and then they have evolved into the Ramapithecus, and then we've got the Australopithecus, and we have got the Homo habilis, and then we have got the Homo erectus, and then finally the Neanderthal. And then after this we have got the important one, that is the Homo sapiens, which is we, the modern human beings. Okay, so this is the word you have to remember along with the Homo sapiens part. So this is how there was an evolution of human. So let me just give a quick overview of all of these things in detail so that you'll make a note of it. So first, speaking of some 15 million years ago, what had happened? First, what I have written here, that is the Dryopithecus. So first, speaking of Dryopithecus, and we also have along with them the Ramapithecus. So these Dryopithecus are the people who were ape-like, early humans who were ape-like, and these were man-like. Okay, so what you see is they are hairy and they have a gorilla plus chimpanzee walk. Okay, so next, when you take some 2 million years ago, we find the Australopithecus who were found in the East Africa. So they basically are vegetarian, that is, they eat fruits, and they used to go for hunting with stone weapons, and their bones were differently found. So after they die, we can see that their fossils will remain underground. When we actually study them, we found out that the bones were different, and they were like first human like hominid, and those people were the Homo habilis. Okay, and their brain was like some 650 to 800 cc, and they also were vegetarian eating people. Okay, so next after this we have got the Homo erectus, and their brain was 900 cc, and they were the non-veg, that is non-veg eating group. Okay, and then after this, after Homo erectus, we have got the Neanderthal, and these people were found in the East and Central Asia. Okay, and they had some 1400 cc, and they used to follow a particular culture, and they used to hide their bodies, that is, cover their bodies, and their dead bodies were properly buried. Okay, so this is all the extra information you have to remember. That is, first, remember the word Drahen, which is, we have the Dryopithecus, Ramapithecus, Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and the Neanderthal, and the Homo sapiens. And first, when you speak of some 15 million years ago, we have got the Dryopithecus and Ramapithecus, who were ape-like and man-like respectively. They were hairy, and they had gorilla plus chimpanzee walk. When you speak of 2 million years ago, we have got the Australopithecus, who were found in East Africa, and they were vegetarians, and they used to survive by hunting, and they used to use the stone weapons. So they knew hunting, and their bones were a bit not the same as what we have found previously. Okay, so another thing you have to remember is Australis, in the sense it is southern, and the Pithecus, in the sense it is the primates. Okay, and next we have found the first human-like bones, which is the hominid in the Homo habilis, and they had a brain of 650 to 800 cc, and they were vegetarian as well. Next came the Homo erectus, who were had some 900 cc of brain, and they were the non-veg eating section. And then came the Neanderthal, who had some 1400 cc of brain, and they were found in East and Central Asia, and they had a proper culture, and they used to cover their body, and their dead bodies were properly buried. So this is all we have read in this slide. Okay, so this is the biological evolution. So we have seen in this that we have both the biological and the cultural evolution. So what is the cultural evolution? Speaking of the cultural evolution. So cultural evolution is like how the humans humans adopted to their surroundings during the quaternary period. It is what is known as the cultural evolution. So what is the quaternary period? It is last 26 lakh years including the present. So with the present we have the last 26 years is what is known as the quaternary period, and how the humans adapted to their surroundings during this period is what we calculate it as the cultural evolution. So we have found out that from starting with hunting plus gathering fruits and vegetables, they have developed themselves into doing agriculture as to produce food production. As to perform the food production, they used to do agriculture. So first they started with hunting and gathering, and then they've converted themselves into agriculture for food production. So this is the cultural evolution which they have found out. So important definition to note here is the ability to produce surplus food and material goods. The ability to produce surplus food and material goods is what we refer to as the civilization. So this definition is important to remember, that whenever anybody asks what is civilization, it is the ability to produce surplus food and material goods, and also to store them properly is what we call it to be as the civilization. Another important thing to note here is that first we have found out the early humans to be present in Africa, and it is important to remember that Homo erectus, those were the first ones to actually migrate from this place to Asia plus Europe, which is some 2 million years ago. So basically they were first found in Africa. The Homo erectus was the people who first had moved from Africa to Asia and Europe, and this happened some 2 million years ago. And the second phase was where Homo sapiens were the ones who had migrated some 1,25,000 years ago. So the first phase of migration happened some 2 million years ago by the Homo erectus, and then another phase happened by Homo sapiens some 1,25,000 years ago. And now next, studying about who were our human ancestors. Who were our human ancestors? So the earliest human settlements were found. The earliest human settlements were found in Africa, Asia, and Europe, and this is what we refer to as the old world. Okay. And next, another important thing you have to remember is that all of the ancestors used to coexist. They coexisted some 3.3 million years ago. And then after that, one of them, after they have coexisted, one of them has actually found or made the use of tools, which was a form of human behavior, because animals don't have the behavior to make tools or to defend themselves, because those are the cognitive skills which animals do not have. So the first human behavior was actually produced by one of them but coexisted, and they have prepared the tools. So these tools were also mentioned to by as the extra corporal limbs, because they acted as the extensions to our bodies. So along with the human body, they used to use the tools as their extensions in order to save themselves, to protect themselves. And after the tools were used for some time, they used to discard these tools. So these tools, after they were left for no use, then they were buried underneath due to some sand or some soil erosion, all these things. And when archaeologists actually go and find out these, that is how we know how the tools were made in the previous times, and with what material was it made of, and all these things. And also when the early humans die, they were actually buried under the soil, and then later we, due to our archaeological surveys, will find the fossils, and we know what is actually happening or what actually happened in the previous time. So this is the thing you have to remember. Initially all of them actually coexisted, and then one of them actually found or started to make tools which acted as an extra corporal limbs for them. And other important thing to note is the earliest human settlements were found in Africa, Asia, and Europe, which is known as the Old World. Okay, and another important thing you have to remember is when you speak of the Homo habilis, they were the handyman who were found in Africa, that is mostly in the Olduvai Gorge in the Tanzania and Kenya. And the Homo erectus was the first people who had migrated, and they used the hand axes and clivers. And when you speak of we, the modern human beings, that is the Homo sapiens, they used the complex technologies. Okay, so now speaking of the timeline of the early human ages. So what is the timeline of this early human ages? So basically we had 6 ages which we are going to study one by one now. So the very first one is the Paleolithic, which is the old stone age. So what is the lifestyle of these people? They were mostly focused on hunting and gathering. And what are the tools they used? The tools they used were simple stone tools. And the second one is the Mesolithic, which is the middle stone age. So what is the lifestyle of these people? The lifestyle is they had a transitional phase. So these people had a transitional phase, that is in between hunting and farming. And the tools which they used were the microlithic tools. So when you see the word micro, it means small or tiny stone tools. And the third category, the third age, is the Neolithic age, which is the new stone age. So you have to note down here that we have the old stone age, middle stone age, and the new stone age. And what is the lifestyle of these people? They had a shift to agriculture. So these people had a transitional phase. Okay, and these people had a shift to agriculture, and they also had settled proper villages, and they used to also rear the animals, that is animal domestication was also done. And what is the tools they used? The tools they used were the polished stone tools. But here it is important to remember that this Neolithic age is where we have seen the Neolithic revolution. Neolithic revolution, which is the biggest lifestyle change for the early humans, that is for the humans. So this is in the Neolithic age is where we found the Neolithic revolution, where we had the biggest lifestyle change, because this they used to do hunting and gathering, and these people had transitional phase, and this is where we actually found the transition, that is the shift to agriculture plus settled villages and animal domestication as well. And the fourth one is the Chalcolithic age, which is the copper and stone age together. So what is it? This is that they use the technology where they started using the copper along with the stone tools, and they also had a development, that is they had the early metallurgy which they used, that is extracting and shaping metals, because they were working with copper. And next, moving to the fifth one, that is Bronze Age. So in Bronze Age we have the technology, that is they do the bronze metallurgy, that is the extracting of bronze, and for making bronze they mix copper, tin, and society. How was their society? They had the growth of trade and the towns, and also the early civilization. As I've told in the definition, civilization in a sense they will have the production of surplus food. And the sixth one is the Iron Age. So in this they have the technology, that is the smelting and working with iron. And what is the impact? Because they're working with iron, it is they got stronger tools and weapons. They have got stronger tools and weapons, and therefore they had more advanced societies. So that is the reason why they had more advanced societies. So now what you have understood from this whole thing? So we have got the old Stone Age, which included the Paleolithic, and the Middle Stone Age is the Mesolithic, and the New Stone Age is the Neolithic. So when you say Pali, it is old, and Lithic in the sense it is stone. So this is the old Stone Age, and the oldest human settlement which is found in the Indian subcontinent. In the Indian subcontinent, what is the oldest human settlement found? It is found some 2 million years ago. And the other thing you have to remember is where it is found. So we have found that in Athirampakkam of Tamil Nadu, which is some 1.5 to 1.7 million years ago. Another thing which we have found is in Isampur of Karnataka, which is found some 1.2 million years ago. So this is the thing which you have to remember for this class. As of now, what we have seen is all the 6 ages. That is the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and the Chalcolithic and Brown Age and the Iron Age, along with the lifestyle and the tools which they used, and the Old Stone Age and the Middle Stone Age, New Stone Age, and the oldest human settlement which is found in Indian subcontinent is some 2 million years ago, and the one which we have particularly seen is in the Athirampakkam of Tamil Nadu, some 1.5 to 1.7 million years ago, and in Isampur, Karnataka, 1.2 million years ago. So what we have read in this video is the early humans and beginning of civilization, which is part 1, Sindhu Saraswati civilization, and the scripts and the Brahmi script and the before and after, which is provided in the NCERT, as well as why should we study the early human history, which is because we have both the biological and cultural evolutions. We have read the biological evolution and the cultural evolution along with the tools and the lifestyle of different ages.